Turf Podcast. It's me, Hunter Mitchell, joined here by my co-host, Cade Harris.
Here we are, back again, another SEC Power Rankings podcast.
Another dime, another dollar.
Yeah, a little bit of a sad, depressing week here in College Station. It's a little rainy on Wednesday, and just everyone's coming back to class. It's kind of how everyone left for the weekend. But
fall break was good.
was
Fall break
great.
was well needed. I feel
man,
like that's a beautiful, beautiful invention. Fall break.
Absolutely. I've heard that last year was like the first time that they had a fall break.
That surprised me.
That was my first year there, and man, fall break was needed this year.
Man, A&M has ran on the military schedule since its inception. No Labor Day,
no breaks,
no fall break. Yeah, just nonstop 5 a.m. I don't know what I've been told.
Wow.
Well, it feels like sometimes.
Yep, but yeah, no, like we were talking about, it's fun to look at the national picture and what everyone else is doing around you when your team hasn't been great the last week.
Yeah. So that
Pretty
being
much.
said, the SEC East will hop right in like we usually do. We'll breeze to the bottom.
Let's talk about Vanderbilt.
They Vanderbilted 38-14. They're bad. I mean, they're not going to make a bowl game.
Nope.
Prayers to Clark Leah.
Georgia is going to have a lot of fun this weekend playing their backups in the second half.
Oh, my God, dude, that's so horrible. That's so at Vanderbilt, too.
Yeah.
I know people joke about it, but this is legitimately going to be one of those games where it's like there will be more Georgia fans than Vanderbilt fans.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, people always make a joke about teams with, like, low attendance, but like, oh, this team's going to, there's going to be more blah, blah, blah fans than these fans. Like, no, there will legitimately be more Georgia fans than there will be Vanderbilt fans.
100%. I've heard, some Alabama fans, when they have Vanderbilt on their schedule, they'll just buy Vanderbilt season tickets because the price for Vanderbilt season tickets is cheaper than when you get around to game week for the Alabama ticket. So they just buy Vanderbilt season tickets.
That is actually nuts. I didn't know. Wow, man, Vanderbilt's down bad. Prayers to everybody in Nashville. You got a good music scene, but you're just biding your time.
Great city, bad college, bad athletic college.
They're biding their time for baseball and
yeah. I mean they're decent. They give competition in pretty much all the secondary sports. They're not a cellar dweller like they are in football.
Yeah, no, football's a nightmare, but they did pretty all right in basketball. They're going to be pretty good this year too.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you're number 6.
My number 6 is Florida.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah. I was just gonna say one more thing about Vanderbilt is you're bad is when you're not even talking about their football team and their power rankings.
Yeah,
you gotta to find something to talk about. You have to talk about their city.
They're adding volleyball now.
Really?
Yeah.
They just need a softball team now.
Yeah, they've added volleyball because the new athletic director is a woman, so she's really like trying to get more women's sports involved, which I love because I love college volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. Props to Vanderbilt for that. For their Vanderbilt volleyball team, we watched them going forward. Not watching the football team though.
No, heck no.
Well, keep on.
Yeah, and they got whacked up by my number 6 spot this past weekend in Florida. I don't think you're gonna have the same 6 as me, are you?
No, definitely not.
Yeah. No, I still have Florida here because that's what I had them last week. That I have South Carolina in my 5, and so South Carolina was on a bye. Florida did what they were supposed to do against Vanderbilt, so kind of nothing there to convince me to move one team above the other. It's kind of just still going off of what I've seen from them earlier on the season. I still have Florida there in the 6.
Yeah, I still have South Carolina in mine. I mean, again, on a bye, so can't really do much. Florida won, so I have no reason to drop them down. South Carolina, still huge question marks. It's Spencer Rattler, Xavier Leggett, and who else? Like I always say, they've got terracotta soldiers as their offensive line, brittle and barely move. So it's like, what are you gonna do with that? So yeah, I just can't put South Carolina any higher until I see them actually win like a big game, I'd say. So yeah.
And luckily for this argument, these two teams will be playing each other this weekend.
There we go. Yeah, this is perfect.
We'll get a little bit of breakup there. we'll have a good idea of who truly is the team above Vanderbilt.
Who really is fighting for number 6 in the East.
Yes. And
So then
moving on to
our
my 4, man.
5.
Oh,
Yeah,
who's your 5?
I assume our 5 and 6 are probably flip
Yeah,
flop.
you got Florida
Yeah,
there.
I got Florida
Okay,
there.
yeah, I have South Carolina
Well,
there.
there we go. That checks out. Florida Gators, like I said, took care of business against
Right.
Vanderbilt. Still, the one really big, and they beat Tennessee really solid, and then just get absolutely thrashed by Kentucky. So you're waiting to see kind of, I think the world's largest outdoor cocktail party should be pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, other than that, I mean, schedule wise, they got good games against Georgia, LSU, Florida going forward, or Florida State going forward. Um,
Those
they
are tough.
there's I could foresee a bowl game in here, but I think at Missouri is going to be tough. Even at South Carolina, Williams-Brice is a really difficult place to play. Um, yeah, so I could see a bowl game uh, for Florida, but it may be a little it may be some tough sledding.
Yeah, definitely. They're gonna have to obviously play better than they played in that Kentucky game because
Yeah,
as the season goes on, I mean, after last week, that Kentucky loss looks a lot worse.
yeah,
Um, and they don't have for the rest of the year. They don't have any for sure wins on their
yeah,
schedule. I mean, I could see them losing all of these games to be honest, but I don't think they will.
yeah.
So yeah,
Again, I can see a bowl game in there maybe
yeah,
somewhere.
uh, I'll give them a bowl game. I
They'll
think
have
that
to.
they can pull off wins against Arkansas, and that Missouri game is going to be big for their chances
Yeah,
for sure.
but so moving on to our 4 spots. I'm interested to hear your 4.
Man, I'm going with Kentucky. That
Mm,
that was a brutal
yeah,
loss this weekend.
uncompetitive.
Just completely unexpected from my end. Just based off how the two teams have looked this year. Georgia, they hadn't won a game like that all season, and I mean, I think they beat them more than they beat teams like UAB and I don't know who they played at the start of the season, but it was
Tennessee Martin.
yeah, I think it was worse than that. But I mean, that was
Just in terms of
just a
like a
dogging.
yeah, like a skill comparison. Like you expect that from a Tennessee Martin or a like
Exactly.
UAB or Ball State, but not
And I think
Kentucky.
yeah, I think you're finally starting to see that
Yeah.
Georgia team that you were expecting one and two that you've seen the last 2 years.
We actually have the same 4.
Yeah, I
I
mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, they just look
Yeah.
uncompetitive.
I mean, I had them in my 1 spot last week, so it's a big drop for me.
Yeah.
I'm usually not going to try to drop someone that much, but if it was a close game, I would have dropped them down to my 2. But man, it was over by halftime. For a Georgia team that, like you mentioned, kind of looked like they could maybe you could sneak up on them a little bit.
Mhm.
They came out there and just thrashed them. So
No.
yeah, I gotta drop Kentucky. I think finally have an excuse this year to drop Kentucky. Kentucky has been living at the top simply because no one has pushed them to the bottom,
Exactly.
and they Georgia has pushed them down. So yeah, I also have Kentucky in my 4 spot.
Mhm.
So then our 3 spot.
Tennessee. They're making up for that loss earlier in the year. They keep winning. They had a bye this past week, so they couldn't do anything this week to move themselves up, other than the fact that Kentucky just got absolutely whacked. So that's why I had to move them up a spot because, man, I could go on and on about that game. Anyways, but just Tennessee, they have potential probably to be the second team at the end of the year here in that East. Yeah, I think like I mentioned last week, that game against Florida seems like it was a little bit of a not so much of a fluke, other than just like a really down game for Tennessee and a really
happens,
good game
yeah.
for Florida. Yeah, they just get caught in the swamp. So yeah, is that who you have in your 3?
I got the Missouri Tigers in
Missouri.
my 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is finally the time that Missouri got caught. They were really, like we mentioned, they were just skin of their teeth every game, which didn't matter who the opponent was, which is good because the Men's are winning games. But man, they could have easily had that LSU game down in the bag, and they just couldn't capitalize. So I think someone finally jumped on Missouri and held on, and I think that will continue to be a trend in the SEC as they move forward. it's really hard to just win every game by the skin of your teeth. So I think that's kind of coming back to bite them a little bit. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. Next game is on the road to Kentucky. Then they host South Carolina. Then they go to Georgia, host Tennessee, Florida, and then close the season against Arkansas on the road. It's a real tough schedule going out, especially that Kentucky and Georgia still. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that they're not going to be able to hold out and hold on for those games as they have been prior to this games in the season. So that's why I got Missouri in my 3 spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be able to hold out for the rest of the season. Like you mentioned, that schedule is tough.
Yeah.
And, they still have a game against Tennessee that will help, kind of decide between the two. But for me right now, it just seems like I gave them a little bit more credit for that loss against LSU because, they should have won that game.
Yeah, they should have.
They had control of the game early on, and they just let it slip, in the second half. And I don't know. I think the reason that they kind of stand out for me over Tennessee is just because of the way they played in that game. And Tennessee's been. I don't know. I would say that Mizzou's loss is better than Tennessee's loss at that point. So that's just at this point. So that's why I have those lined up right now.
Yeah, I definitely think for me Tennessee in my 2 spot was the beneficiary of having a bye week.
Right.
So yeah, I mean at the top it's kind of like you said until these teams play each other, it's really difficult to kind of get a read on them. Especially if Missouri does continue to play really close games, they will upset some people later on their schedule. But I think that those close games will also come back to bite them as well. I think if Missouri plays close against Arkansas and against Florida and against South Carolina, I think some of those games may come back and bite them. So that's why it's kind of why I have Missouri in my 3 until I see them really win out and like blow out somebody or just win convincingly. I just don't think that close wins are a constant measure of success in the SEC.
Definitely not.
And so then the Volunteers volunteering for that number 2 spot for me. Yeah, I mean Tennessee is the offense has kind of flip flopped, and we'll talk about it more in our preview. I mean they've completely tonal shifted what their emphasis was from last year to this year. So I think there was probably some growing pains, especially against Florida, but I think they're kind of shaping into it now. A bye week before A&M is huge, hosting at home, primetime CBS slot. I think that will be a really good litmus test for both teams. Can A&M win on the road? Can Tennessee come out and win convincingly against a good opponent? I think we'll see all of that come Saturday. But I have a lot of faith in Tennessee, simply because of how they've adjusted defensively and offensively from last year. I think that again that Florida game is just kind of weird. But I really do want to see how they perform at home against a pretty solid opponent from the West.
Yeah, that'll be a good game for sure. But
back in the top spot, they were not out for long, and we joked about it too.
Yeah.
Georgia did not take kindly to me putting them in the 2 spot, and they said we will take your
Holy
2
cow.
spot, and we will beat and bully and bludgeon them down to your 4 spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. If there was any question that Georgia has a contender behind them in the East, that was silence this weekend. They just.
Well, my apologies. Send out the email. I apologize to all Georgia fans. It is not a reflection of me or my values. I'll be taking time away from the podcast to reflect on my actions. I'm sorry for ever doubting you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Don't ever doubt Georgia is kind of the lesson we learned this past weekend.
I
thought they were gonna win, but I did not think it was gonna be like that.
Yeah.
I thought Kentucky was gonna hang in there for sure, but holy cow, that score surprised me.
Yeah. No, Georgia, Carson Beck, winning co-offensive player of the week, really stepped up. It's probably his biggest performance of the year.
Absolutely.
Really kind of stepped into his own and showed why he is the starting quarterback. Defense did what the Georgia defense does. So now Georgia is beginning to get to the point where you're like, oh dang, this team may start getting scary now.
Yeah, Definitely not a team I want to face towards the end of the year.
Negative. No. So, hop on down, go westward
hmm
bound. Same Vanderbilt, bottom, Mississippi State.
That's your 7?
You don't have.
Nah. I still have Auburn there, dude.
You don't have. Did you? You didn't see Mississippi State against Western Michigan, dude?
I saw that they gave up 28 points,
Man,
but
it's the Broncos, dude, from the MAC. From the MAC.
I understand.
It just goes to show you how poor Mississippi State is in the middle of conference play. They're hosting a MAC school.
Yeah, that was kind of a random.
Yeah,
because
it's
usually
just
they happen
super-
towards the end of the year, the beginning of the
super
year.
weird.
Yeah, that was a random matchup that they had, but yeah, no, I understand why you have them there. I guess I'm not being harsh enough maybe on their performance this weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just still so stunned by that Auburn team that I watched in Kyle Field that I can't see them being better than every team in the West. That's just why I have them at the 7. Like I really don't like this Auburn team.
I can tell. This may be. It's kind of funny. This is for the 6 and 7 spot, I assume. But man, I have not disagreed with you more in one of these power rankings. I think Mississippi State looks like dirty hot garbage. I think this team. I think it will be a miracle for them to get 5 and 7. Man, I could really see them just stinking it out and losing the rest of them. I mean, geez, what do they have left?
They still need to play Ole Miss on Thanksgiving. They'll still play A&M. They still have to play
So they got
Arkansas.
So they go to Arkansas, which not.
And they still have to play Auburn too.
Yeah, they go to Auburn. Then they host 24 Kentucky. They then go to A&M, and then they host Southern Miss, which should be a win. And then they host Ole Miss.
There's only one win in that
There's
schedule.
was a single win there.
Yeah.
Like going to the Plains, like that's
yeah.
that's maybe the only.
I might
one.
give them the advantage if Auburn was coming to Mississippi State, but
But not
having
the
to
other way
play
around, yeah.
having to play there is it's a bit tough. That's just. That's why I have Mississippi State over Auburn stuff. I think if they played on a neutral site, Mississippi State probably win by like a field goal.
3-2 maybe.
Yeah. Look, they've just felt like so far this season they've played better than Auburn. I'm sorry. Sorry if you disagree with that take.
I do. If we were to play a really stupid game, which is let's compare whose losses are better. I think like a 41-14 loss to LSU is at home is a lot worse than a 27-20 loss to Georgia at home.
Yeah.
If we're comparing peanuts to almonds here, apples to oranges.
No, I agree. I can't get over that quarterback display I watched at Kyle Field.
Well, okay, well just wait till Mississippi State comes here, and then you'll
see Will Rogers in that offense.
You'll be begging for Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford again.
Will I?
Start your franchise with him.
Heck no. That was disgusting, man.
So then I assume our 4 and 5 or 6 or 7 6 or
just flipped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Mississippi State there. Like you mentioned, that they aren't a good team.
No,
we're really arguing between two bad teams here.
Yeah, our argument is solely on two teams that would be astronomically lucky to be playing in the Peanut Bowl. It's just they're both just two really bad teams in the West. Again, the cream and the crop.
Definitely
Is
at the top.
Yeah, it's definitely settling. It appears. So then our 5. Arkansas.
Yeah. I'll give them credit. They played a good game this weekend. Ole Miss coming off that win against LSU, probably maybe a little sleepwalk into that game. They're coming off a high win, but I'll give them credit. They played close to them, but still couldn't get the job done. And I mean, there's a lot that separates them between Mississippi State and Auburn. but there's also a lot that separates them from the top. Like the 5 spot
Yeah.
is really like a
I
true
mean, our,
middle
our
here.
5 spot is the worst record in SEC West. It just kind of shows you. But, man, you just expected more from in the preseason from this offense.
Mhm.
Man, you really expected more from KJ Jefferson. And I know Rocket Sanders has been hurt, but no, he's back now. And even then, I mean, there's been a lot of frustration with Dan Enos calling plays. Um, a lot of why are we running shotgun 4th and 1 with a 247-pound quarterback? So I think there's a lot of frustration on that side of the ball, and Arkansas simply isn't equipped defensively enough to have their defense solely be keeping them in games. They were definitely going to have to win some shootouts this year, and they just haven't had the capacity to do that.
Mm-mm.
That's why you see number 4 in that L column for Arkansas.
I mean, that 0-3 could easily be 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could be 3-0. They kind of they let it slip against A&M, but I mean they hung in there close with LSU and Ole Miss. Their schedule just has not done them any favors.
No.
Dude. That's so bad. Their first 4 SEC games against the top 4 in the West.
Yeah.
LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, and then this week they have to play Bama.
Oh.
It's just that's disgusting. 0-4 is calling their name.
Yeah, literally.
But lucky for them, Mississippi State and Auburn come towards the end.
Arkansas said, "All right, tough loss against Ole Miss. We gotta get ready and play checks notes. Alabama."
I'm sorry, Sam Pittman.
Yeah, that's a real rough draw.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's just life in the SEC, though.
yeah, I mean,
And Arkansas is just not made for it right now.
no. Again, we really expected more coming in the season from them. But we weren't high on their defense. Their defense has been arguably the best part of them.
Mhm.
But that's by no stretch of the imagination saying they have a good one.
Mm-mm.
Man, I mean, they could. Let's see. They're 2-4. They could technically still make a bowl game. I think they could. They can beat Mississippi State at home. They can beat Auburn at home. They can beat They can beat FIU. They should beat FIU.
They should. I think they should have at least 3 wins there.
So that's 5 wins, and they'll have to pick one of them
Where's
up
their
against
swing game?
either Florida on the road or Missouri at home.
Okay.
It's possible.
It's doable.
It's doable.
It's very doable because
Yeah.
I think that they could possibly win both of those games against East teams.
Yeah, for
but
for
they could
Arkansas,
go 0-2 as well.
Yeah, exactly. For Arkansas, the hard part is will be behind you after this week. Thoughts and prayers to everyone involved in what will be known as the massacre in Bryant Denny. I actually don't think it will be as bad as that. I just like to pick fun at. I mean, they're gonna lose.
It won't be bad. It will be kind of close because the Arkansas defense can keep it close.
Yeah,
but
it'll
be like a
break by the-
two touchdown, like probably like a 17-point win. I'd say
something
for Bama.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that too.
Yeah.
Now your 4 spot.
Who is that? That's LSU. I still got LSU in the 4. The loss to Ole Miss, it's still hurting them for me. Their defense looks just pretty bad. Although,
Yeah.
I mean, they played okay this weekend. Arkansas is not a great offense like we discussed, but their defense has just shown to not be able to stop a high-power offense.
Yeah, I've got LSU there as well. Yeah, we talked about being disappointed about Arkansas's offense preseason. I'm really disappointed how LSU's defense is shaped out. I really thought this was going to be one of the better defenses in the entire country. And man, they've just been dropping just stinker after stinker performance. I mean, let's see. They have given up the most points allowed in the entire West.
Oof.
Like the second closest is Mississippi State.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bad.
That's Mississippi State by almost they're ahead of Mississippi State by almost 20 points. Given up. That's not a good sign.
I don't know what to say about that.
Now, mind you, they are number 1 in points points scored in the West. So they're outgunning people for sure. Like they're but
That you can't do that in this conference.
no,
You
it's not.
can't
It's not a
try
reliable system.
because obviously that failed against Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
if luckily it worked against Arkansas because that Arkansas defense was so bad, and
Hmm.
then I mean, it did work this weekend against Missouri for them. But against the powerhouse teams in the West, like Ole Miss, didn't happen. And then if they were to get in a shootout with Bama, A&M, Georgia, heck, even Tennessee, that's not going to fly.
I mean, sometimes it just kind of falls on like who time of possession too, like who
Mhm.
gets the ball at the right time. So sometimes those shootouts aren't even on your hands, because it's simply who's going to get the ball last. So you're kind of playing that game going back and forth instead of it's kind of solidifying yourself defensively. So yeah, not a good formula for winning for Ole Miss. No, sorry, Ole Miss for LSU. Um, and we'll just gotta see how that goes going forward.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a 3 spot.
Um, I'm interested to see yours, but I'm going Ole Miss for mine.
No, I got the Texas A&M Aggies.
Yeah, I figured you would. That was harsh. It was. I couldn't just. I
For me,
thought about those two a lot at the
I
two and
did.
the three. I
I
just couldn't do it because at the end of the day, it still was a close game against Bama, and there were a lot of mistakes that were made that could have changed that outcome, namely at the coaching position. Like that was one of really bad coach game until I saw what happened with Miami and Georgia Tech later on the night. Um,
Oh my god.
but
Oh man, I wish we could talk about that.
well, jeez, that so much to talk about that. That was just one of the worst coaching decisions I've ever seen. Sorry, not trying to sidetrack from the fact that A&M's coaching was terrible. That was just even more terrible. But um, I guess for me is just Ole Miss. If they would have had a more impressive win against Arkansas, I think I probably would have had them over the Aggies. It's just uh, they they looked okay against Arkansas. Like the offense was pretty stagnant, like from what it has been compared to the LSU games. It almost looked like that Alabama offense. They just struggled to move the ball up and down, and that's why I have them in my three.
Yeah, for me, I think the score is a lot closer than what the A&M Alabama game felt like in the second half, and of course, again, we'll probably break that down more in our A&M episode here. But yeah, I just look at when you compare Ole Miss and A&M, both have a loss to Alabama. Ole Miss just has a win over LSU. They got a win over Tulane. Still, just think resume wise, Ole Miss has shown more like from that front. So that's why I have them in my 2 spot, A&M in my 3. Still want to see how A&M goes and performs on the road. I think that'll really kind of tell where they're at more in terms of the top of the West. If they even drop to that 4, or if they can rise back up for 2 for me. But I don't know. Let's just see. So I assume your 2 is
Bama. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
yeah,
it's A and M.
Aggies.
Yeah, just you had the chance to win a potential conference or division title this weekend, and
Crucial.
you let it go.
Yep. Now you need Bama to lose 2, so you could possibly take that top spot, and you would
Yeah,
need to win on the road at Tennessee, on the road to Ole Miss,
on the
on the
road to
road to
LSU.
LSU, which is a huge ask.
It
Just
considering your last true road win came when Zach Calzada beat Missouri in 2021.
which is why I say that this Tennessee game for A&M is a huge indicator of what this team is capable of.
Yeah, I would call it a season-defining game. This past week, you could consider it season-defining, but I think that was kind of just a game of hey, how far really can this A&M team go? I think this game is hey, just like how much can you limit the damage for the rest of the season?
Yeah.
How much confidence and momentum? I mean, you hate talking about it. You can build into next season. I hate talking about next season because it seems like we're always talking about next season with this team. But legitimately, I mean, it's the reality. You can build a lot of momentum. You have a lot of really good production coming back for the next season. Um, And yeah, that's just kind of why we're kind of already doing a little preview for the game. But yeah, I think this is literally a season-defining game.
Yeah.
Flip the script because Tennessee has not lost at home in a long time. You have not won on the road in a long time. It's for both of those teams. It's a pretty big defining game for them.
Yeah. And then top of the West, we got Bama back on top. Jalen Milroe had his best performance of the year. Picked apart the Aggie secondary.
Jermaine Burton, holy cow!
Yeah.
If there were any fantasy football lovers up in Kyle Field, they were like drooling over the fact of drafting Jermaine Burton next year.
You know what's funny? Well, for even this year, middle of that game, I looked up on no one in our league had Jermaine Burton.
Did you pick him up?
No.
No?
I couldn't pick him up mid-game.
Well, I'm talking about for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's going to do that again.
I don't see why not. He's been injured, and so I mean that's kind of why his name hasn't been out there very much. But man, he looked like a stud.
No, McMillan's finally coming back, so
there you go.
That'll
be happy for you.
But yeah, Bama defensively shut down A&M second half. 16 points for Bama, 3 for A&M second half. Just had an open door to the quarterback every play. Dallas Turner and that defensive line just mutilated
Dominant.
A&M. Secondary shut down the receivers for the most part second half. Bama looked a lot like Bama from the past, maybe not as strong, but they're looking like the best team in the West, and they're just gonna have to go out and
keep proving it.
Yeah, and I mean like Saban said, they seem to keep getting better every week. So for Bama and Georgia back on top, I think this may be one of the first weeks you've had both Bama and Georgia. I think both like consensusly.
It has to be
at the top. I think because beginning of the year we had
LSU
at the top. We've kind of. Yeah, I think we have to look back.
I'm gonna go back and kind of look, but yeah, I mean, I don't think so. Last week I had A&M. I mean, it's been LSU at the top.
It's just a wild team.
Yeah, this is the first year. Oh wait, hold up. I think we got a blemish here. Week 2, I had Bama as my number 1 after LSU dropped to Florida State. You might have as well.
Yeah, I probably did.
Yeah, but I think that was it. Other than that, this is the second week of that. Wow. Back to where we started. Back to the Bama Georgia days.
Here we are again.
We do these power rankings to see if we can have some fun, see if there's any other teams that can contend for the top. And nope, it's just Bama and Georgia again.
Oh, always just Bama and Georgia. What? For Bama and Georgia this week, that's all we've got. This is the Home Turf Podcast. I'm Hunter Mitchell.
I'm Cade Harris.
Thanks for listening. We will catch y'all later.